astronauts to the moon.
What's going on, everyone? Jaronism, back again. Good video today, and this is the kind of video that I think needs to go viral, but of course, I don't know how to do that other than to make it, fill it with truth, and then hope others recognize it. So, here it goes. Now, you guys may or may not remember this Saudi cleric from a few months ago. He became quite the internet sensation for being, like me, a moron. Now, I wouldn't dare try and say his name for fear I would completely butcher it, but he seems like a very nice guy. And he became an internet sensation quickly by claiming that the Earth was fixed and did not go around the sun. Now, as would be completely expected, every news channel and every atheism board and forum began to masturbate and create memes and jokes and laughing and poking fun. But I never trust those little captions that we see at the bottom of the screen, the little translations. And so, being the skeptic that I am, today I used my Google app to try and translate what he said. Now, if anyone out there speaks Arabic, please would you do me the biggest favor and translate this, and you can email me at jaronism@yahoo.com. I would love to know exactly what he said. I got a lot, or the gist of what he was saying, after translating it about 3 times. But I know that some of it was wrong, as I did see it come up with Mike Tyson once, and chicken, and some other things that I don't think he said. But I did find something rather interesting. Does anyone remember him speaking at all about the moon or the moon landing? Well, this is exactly my fear. I'm always afraid that they might say something that they don't want us Americans to hear, so they're going to make fun of what he did say that they want to tell us, and leave out the part that he speaks that's important, or might be truthful, or tell us something that we don't already know. So, I'm about to translate what he said to the best of my ability. Again, I'm going to miss some things, maybe say something a little different than he said it, but I will let you guys know as soon as someone gets back to me. And as I stated, what he said about the moon did come up 3 times, so I'm able to get the gist of it. Again, most of this is the gist, but listen carefully. I think you'll be rather shocked. Okay, someone here is asking if the Earth moves or remains fixed. Well, the truth that has been described by someone's name and somebody else's name is that the Earth is actually fixed. It does not move. And this is consistent with our Quran. And it also makes sense to us in our heads. There is lots or plenty of evidence that tells us the sun rotates the earth. As for the evidence that's based on reason, well, the Westerners, they may have their theories, but we Muslims have theories as well. We have our own theories, and we have brains too, just like they do. So first, let's say that we want to go from here to an airport in China. Okay, are you with me? So concentrate now. Let's say that this is the Earth, and now let's assume that it is turning. If we take a flight from China, you say the Earth is turning, right? So if the plane stops in midair, wouldn't China come to it? Am I right? China should come to the plane. If the Earth revolves the other way, then the plane could not ever catch China, no matter how long it flies. Since China is revolving, you'd never get there. And this proves that the Earth is fixed. Okay, I am no longer translating for about the next 10 or 15 seconds. Here I kept getting multiple different renditions, nothing that was completely clear what he was saying here, so I'm not going to butcher it. Kept saying earth and turning, and that doesn't make sense. That's not true. But coming up here in a second is where it gets interesting. Right about here or so is where he said starting here. The Americans say they've been to and actually landed on the moon, but they have never set a foot upon it, nor have they laid their eyes upon it. They produced it all in Hollywood, or I don't know where they did it. They say they have traveled to the moon, and we just all took their word for it, but it's not true. It is a deception. We shouldn't have taken their word for it. Now, for the life of me, I can't imagine why every news station played that video, but the only subtitles we saw were the ones where he says that the Earth does not spin. They failed to put in the part that he says we didn't go to the moon. It was a deception. It was done in Hollywood. We shouldn't have taken their word for it. But I digress. I am really interested in somebody getting me the actual translation. So again, email me please if you speak Arabic. So that brings us back to my last video where I pointed out that we understand science's explanation for why a plane cannot leave, say, from New York and simply wait for California to swing through. They say that the entire system of air and the entire atmosphere of Earth is moving along with it. So I said, if that is the truth, then being that Earth is moving 66,000 miles per hour around the sun, couldn't we lift off with our rockets and just wait in space? Because if we just waited there, well, then the moon would be coming to us, and the moon trip would have taken 4 hours rather than 3 days. Or is the atmosphere of space also like the atmosphere of Earth? Now, where the confusion set in for me was, as I've been looking up everything that people have been sending me, well, almost everything, not the death threats or the people saying that I should be put into a gas chamber. A lot of people bring up the Coriolis effect. And this made no sense because I said, wait, now the spin does affect the air? So I went to a couple videos. I wanted to learn about the Coriolis effect. So let's learn together.
If you've ever watched the news during a hurricane or wintertime nor'easter, you've probably noticed that big storms spin over time as they travel. In the northern hemisphere, they spin counterclockwise. But if you were watching a storm in the southern hemisphere, you'd see it spinning clockwise. Why do storms spin in different directions depending on their location? And why do they spin in the first place? A storm's rotation is due to something called the Coriolis effect, which is a phenomenon that causes fluids like water and air to curve as they travel across or above Earth's surface.
Time out. Time out on the floor. So the Coriolis effect is a phenomenon that causes fluids like water and air to curve as they travel across or above the Earth's surface, and this is a result of the spinning Earth. Okay, I'll go ahead and let you continue.
Here's the basic idea. Earth is constantly spinning around its axis from west to east. But because Earth is a sphere and wider in the middle, points on the equator are actually spinning faster around the axis than points near the poles. So imagine you were standing in Texas and had a magic paper airplane that could travel hundreds of miles. If you threw your airplane directly northward, you might think it would land straight north, maybe somewhere in Nebraska. But Texas is actually spinning around Earth's axis faster than Nebraska is, because it's closer to the equator. That means that the paper airplane is spinning faster as well, and when you throw it, that spinning momentum is conserved. So if you threw your paper airplane in a straight line toward the north, it would land somewhere to the right of Nebraska, maybe in Delaware.
Okay, wait, that's a technical foul or penalty or something. So you're saying, even though the Earth is rotating in that direction, that if I throw something from Texas towards the north, it is going to go also in the direction of the spinning Earth, not towards California.
So from your point of view in Texas, the plane would have taken a curved path to the right. The opposite would happen in the southern hemisphere. An object traveling from the equator to the south would get deflected to the left.
Hold up now, time out. You need to be more clear. Are you talking about to the left or are you talking about to the east? There's a difference, you know. Let me let you finish because all you've done is further confuse me.
So, what does this have to do with hurricane spinning? Well, at the center of every hurricane is an area of very low pressure. As a result, the high-pressure air surrounding the center, or eye, of a storm is constantly rushing toward the low-pressure void in the middle. But because of the Coriolis effect, the air rushing toward the center is deflected off course. In the northern hemisphere, the volumes of air on all sides of the eye keep getting tugged slightly to the right. The air keeps trying to make its way to the middle and keeps getting deflected, causing the entire system to spin in a counterclockwise direction. In the southern hemisphere, where the Coriolis effect pulls air to the left, the opposite happens. Storms spin around the eye in a clockwise manner.
Aha! I caught you. Double speak, huh? So let's take an example like I've drawn here of a plane leaving California. And I don't want anybody making fun of my drawings. I'm an excellent artist. Honestly, I could draw the plane that hit the building on 9/11. Want to see? See? Told you. I could also draw the plane that hit the Pentagon. See? Now you all believe me, I'm an excellent artist. Now, back to our passenger jet. Now, you said things from the northern hemisphere had a tend to pull right. Now, do you mean the forward momentum will stay? Does it go to the east or does it go right? Let me tell you your problem here. Let's change our throwing location to the bottom of the southern hemisphere. Now, does this phenomenon cause the paper airplane to go east, which would be the blue line? Or does it cause it to go left, which would be the red line? Or is it only as you say and I should mind my own business? Because hopefully everyone sees the problem here. If we change to the bottom and it goes east, isn't this the same as the northern hemisphere? And if we're on the bottom and it goes left, well then it's the complete opposite of what you just described. Starting to sniff doublespeak. So again, just to make it clear, if we were in the northern hemisphere and we went north, and instead we were looking south, and we threw our paper airplane again, would it go east, as in towards Delaware? Or would it go right, as in towards California? Please explain yourselves a little bit better, because if it goes to the east, then that is the same that you just drew in the southern hemisphere. You're lying, and it's pathetic. To those of you human beings like myself out there, remember where we've seen this before. We saw them do this with the stars. They tried to confuse us with saying that the stars in the south went a different direction, but by just turning around, that fixed the problem. Have we solved the Coriolis effect? So I went to Snopes.com. I don't recommend going there ever, but I mean, they say that we landed on the moon. But I went there because I like to see what they have to say about things. It gives me an idea of what the general world believes. And the question was, does the Coriolis effect cause water to go down the drains differently in the northern and southern hemisphere? And surprise, surprise, Snopes actually told the truth and said no, that is not the cause, and that it is a fictitious statement that water drains the opposite direction. It all has to do with the bowl. So that video you guys have been talking about that shows the bowl, I bet you if we check that bowl, it is shaped in a way that makes the water do that. So thanks a lot down there on the equator for helping to push the lies of the pseudo-scientific community. So let's read what Snopes has to say. Snopes begins by explaining that people all over the globe experience different speeds as the Earth is spinning. So someone at the equator will be spinning 1,050 miles per hour, while somebody in, say, Alaska may be moving only 150 miles per hour. Now, no one's ever been able to explain why, if you lived in Alaska your entire life and then took a trip down to Florida, how you wouldn't get sick from the 150 mile an hour to 800 mile per hour change. But again, I think some of us are starting to see why nothing that they say makes sense. But Snopes continues, the apparent difference in speed results in the Coriolis force, an effect that imparts a twist to largish events happening away from the equator. Best known for its effect on air masses. As they move away from the equator, their speed, which matches that of where they started from. Excuse me? So if a plane starts in California, we can't then take its speed and add it to the distance that it's traveling? It continues. The Coriolis deflection sets cyclonic systems turning counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. Likewise, a cannonball fired due north will seemingly veer a teeny bit to the east, and one fired to the south will apparently deflect ever so slightly to the west. Oh, you intellectuals, I'm so on to you. Anybody else notice that the end of this sentence, or the end of this paragraph, does not mention the northern or southern hemisphere? That's how it makes sense. But when you add that in, it becomes a false statement. Because what would happen if I launched a cannonball and fired it south, but from the southern hemisphere? You idiots. I honestly have no idea how you got away with it for so long because, again, I admit I'm not that smart, but I'll tell you another thing. I'm not that stupid. I mean, remember, all of this started with a thought experiment. Newton's thought experiment, that's real science, was if you took a cannonball and fired it with that top red line, too fast or too far, the cannonball would go sailing into space. The second red line, the bottom one, if you fired it too close or too slow or not enough power, it would just fall and hit the earth because of gravity. But if you launched it just the perfect speed, it would go around and then gravity would just let it continue in its orbit around the earth. Which is how they say the ISS is flying. Sure, whatever you say. So let's look even further into this Coriolis effect. So, Newton's laws of motion describe the motion of an object in a non-accelerating inertial frame of reference. Google, are we moving? Let's see, the Earth at the equator moves at a speed of 460 meters per second, roughly 1,000 miles per hour. As school children, we learn that the Earth is moving about our sun in a very near circular orbit, and it covers this route at a speed of about 67,000 miles per hour. Okay, just making sure that we are moving. So we find out that when Newton's laws are transformed to a uniformly rotating frame of reference, that's when the Coriolis and centrifugal forces begin to appear. Keep reading a little bit further down and we see these additional forces are termed inertial forces, fictitious forces, or pseudo-forces. Fictitious? What's the definition of that, Google? Fictitious, adjective, created, taken, or assumed for the sake of concealment, not genuine, false. Ladies and gentlemen, may I give to you science and the Coriolis effect, confusing the world for far too long. And so now we can see what happened. Newton had his thought experiment, but didn't know that later on that we need to be moving in order to make these guys seem right and keep their cush little jobs. And so they're nothing more than correction forces that do not even exist in a non-accelerating reference frame. But if they don't exist in the so-called accelerating reference frame, then that means they don't exist at all, meaning that we're not moving. Ha! It's simple, guys. We just need to dig in a little deeper and we can find the truth. It's out there. Believe me. And I don't know about you, but I think it's time for a recap. There's no way people can be following this, so let me recap exactly what's going on in the universe. Don't worry, I'll make it quick. Now, the Earth spins at the equator at about 1,000 miles per hour around its axis, and this axis has a tilt of exactly 24.5 degrees, and that's where we get seasons. And as we spin, we also orbit the Sun at 66,000 miles per hour, and the Sun is located 93 million miles from Earth. And that Sun is just an average star out of the hundreds of billions in our galaxy alone. And the orbit of the Sun means we travel 584 million miles in 1 year, while the Sun also orbits the Milky Way galaxy at about 500,000 miles per hour, meaning it travels 4.4 billion miles in that same year, while the Milky Way galaxy is traveling at 1.34 million miles per hour, meaning it traveled 11.8 billion miles in that same year. Now, after all that, we never feel a thing. Add to that, the North Star Polaris doesn't change its location from our point of view. You may call it science, I call it a belief. In other words, I call it bullshit. Now, congratulations are in order to the Masons on fooling the world for 400 years with your pathetic satanic worship. My name is Jaren, and you've taught the world that I'm a moron. But I'll tell you one thing, at least I'm not wrong. So, let me wish you good luck with your Satan worship. I'm sure it will turn out to be the best decision you've ever made. To everyone else who watches my videos, if I've said it once, you know I've said it 1,000 times. Do not trust men, ever. Use your brain to find the truth, and then thank the Creator for giving you one. This has been Jaranism, reminding you, as always, open your mind, there's truth inside. Appreciate you guys watching. Share it, send it to your family and friends. Remember, don't lie to each other. In fact, treat others better than you would treat yourself. I may not be an intellectual, but at least I speak the truth. Until next time, this is Jaranism. Peace.